Is this shit still going on? This just won't die, will it? Well, I guess I'll have to give you an update again from the front lines, and welcome to another video. This Desert Eagle L5 here doesn't have anything to do with this video. I just have it here because I'm going to use it more like a fidget spinner to keep my hands doing something while I'm talking here, keep my brain occupied. I'm just going to take it apart and re-oil it. It doesn't need cleaned or anything. I'm just going to give it a oil so I have something to do with my hands and really forget what I'm about to talk about. But let's give you a coronavirus update, or COVID-19, because if you say coronavirus, you might be demonetized here with YouTube's algorithms. So, you might remember in my last video, I said I was feeling a bit prophetic. Not pathetic, like some people might say. Prophetic, because I tend to see things before the vast majority of people get on board. And that's not entirely true. It's just people are so goddamn fucking stubborn that they won't admit when it's actually, they're being pissed on and it's not actually raining. Well, that has come true at least tenfold from the last time I saw you. So, I was told things like, oh, there's not going to be a slippery slope, and you guys are overreacting, and don't worry, it's just for your safety. And, well, let's just say things have certainly gone down a little bit here. So, if you're unfamiliar, and you must be either not a subscriber of mine, or living under a rock as a subscriber of mine, I live in New York, and that is the front line of this big COVID-19 outbreak. So, how are things going now since my last update? Well, not well. I will say not well. Not for me in particular. I mean, it doesn't really bother me all that much, everything that's been going on. But there have certainly been some updates. I have some things that I want to cover over here, and why I am completely, like when your parents say, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. I am absolutely... New Yorkers should be ashamed of themselves. While I've always been sort of embarrassed to call myself a New Yorker, because as King Andy has said, we don't have any place in New York, us deplorable people like gun owners. I really don't feel like I have any place in New York. And the sad thing is, it's not just the government that's making me feel this way. It's my fellow New Yorkers that are applauding some of the decisions that the government has made and not seeing the potential problems. How in this state where I have to have this Desert Eagle L5 and I can't have a normal Desert Eagle because they weigh too much and this weighs a little bit less than too much, how anybody can not see the problems with giving them just the taste, just a taste of power, going way too far, as what happened here. If you can't see that problem, you should be absolutely ashamed of yourself. So let's start with the first thing that I wanted to talk about. And that is these ridiculous N95 masks. Not the masks in particular. We'll talk about those a bit more in a minute. But what I wanted to talk about was the thing that, well, one of the things that was totally applauded, and I did not applaud this. I said, you have got to be fucking kidding me. This should never be stood up for. Basically, what happened was, I guess there was a hoarder of masks in New York City, and this guy, I guess, was a price gouger, which I'll have to explain it again in this video, even though I did last time, but there's no such thing as price gouging. I almost think people are starting to realize this now, because I have seen them kind of drop off a bit when they see that, hey, the more expensive is actually making it so the product is available for everyone, and the stores, as they continue to keep running empty of things like toilet paper, we can't just keep selling things extremely cheap, and price gouging, which doesn't exist, but the increase of pricing is absolutely necessary to control market values. People seem to be getting more on board, seeing that that's, the truth. But anyway, so basically there was this hoarder and price gouger in New York City that had a lot of N95 masks, more than he could ever use, but he was going to be a price gouger and sell them at an increased cost. It wasn't actually that bad. It was like, if the normal cost was like $4 per unit, he was doing like $7 per unit. Still, it's kind of a shitty thing to do, but it is kind of a required thing. Oh no, King Andy stepped in. He stepped in all about this, and he flat out said, no, we ain't doing it. And he had his boys go in and arrest the man and steal all of his property. Now, that is egregious constitutional violations, and people seem to be getting a little confused nowadays lately that, oh, we can just suspend whatever parts of the Constitution that aren't, fun at the time, and we'll just say public safety or national emergency. I don't know how many times it needs explained to the dents out there, but the Constitution is not for the good times. It's not, the free speech isn't about talking about the weather, because we don't need protection from talking about the weather. Your Second Amendment isn't for your bolt-action hunting rifle, because we don't need protection for that. Nobody's really coming after that all too much. It's for the bad, questionable times. It's for making racist statements. If you're Kyle Larson, you're very familiar with that, how you do have the First Amendment right, how NASCAR, being a private organization, can drop your sponsorship. Not entirely sure I agree with that, but there's a little bit of topical humor. And like things like the Fourth Amendment against illegal search and seizure, that doesn't just disappear because we're in a time of crisis. But people applauded. People actually applauded these government thugs coming in and stealing this guy's masks because, oh, no, sir. This is different. This is he's hoarding supplies in a time of need, and there's no way he needs that many. You again realize that you're in a state where they think they can tell you how many rounds you need in your magazine. Who the fuck named you the commandant of what other people need? That's what I want to ask, first of all. Who decided that you're the person that decides what other people need? I don't care if he had 50 million. They're his property. Period. End of story. You can fucking cry until the cows come home about, oh, he's a shitty person and this and that. And on some points I might agree. If he went out and deliberately bought all these things to make a profit, well, I understand it may be needed, but it is kind of a shitty thing to do. Doesn't matter. It's his property. But I'm out here trying to explain to these people, you cannot accept this because it's a slippery slope. What happens when they say, oh, yeah, you have too many guns or too much ammo or too many of these other vital life-saving supplies? We're going to go ahead and take those too. And I was met with jeers. I was met with, oh, there he is, doing the same thing he always does. Everything's not black and white. This and that. Well, it kind of is. It especially is when you live in this state and you know exactly what's going to happen. But I was lauded. I had people tell me, there's not going to be a slippery slope. This is just one guy getting what's coming to him for hoarding the mask. The next day, literally the next day, Cuomo decided to steal ventilators from people upstate. He decided that, how you have all those hospitals up there that have these ventilators? Well, we're just going to go ahead and take them. So, yeah, we're going to move them down here to New York City, because all Cuomo obviously cares about is New York City. Anybody that has any familiarity with New York State, all he cares about is New York City. I don't even know, I genuinely don't know if he knows that upstate actually exists. His governor's mansion's up here, but he's never around. I really honestly am not sure he knows what parts of his state exist, unless he's in for some sort of a photo op where he's saving people from a flipped over truck, and it totally wasn't just for a big photo op. So what he did was he decided to come in and steal medical supplies that people may or may not need. It's very uncertain time, so I'd probably keep those things at a time like this. He just decided to come in, we're going to take them. So it ain't going to be a slippery slope, you're just overreacting, and Alex Jones conspiracy stuff took exactly one day to come to fruition. Just wanted to point that out. And that was the start. That was the start. Okay, that was one where the slippery slope already happened. It's weird how these were just Alex Jones conspiracies, and they're kind of actually coming true. And you know how I feel about that. I'm not... My problem with the conspiracy theorists and Alex Jones is they cry wolf. Not everything is a conspiracy. Not the vaccines that they give you are going to give your kids autism and all that nonsense. You can't call everything a conspiracy. And the reason for that is because when there's actual shady government shit going on, like right now, people aren't going to believe you, and they really need to be believing you right now. Like, if I told you last year the government's going to mandate people wear ankle bracelets and stay in their home, and they'll say it's for public safety, you would say I was fucking conspiracy theorist, this and that and the other thing, and I probably would too. But that also just happened, which brings me to my next story. If you're unaware, and I'll see if I can put a link to this in the description, in Kentucky, they gave ankle bracelets, not optional, they forced ankle bracelets on people that were failing to abide by the quarantine. Both sick and not. So both positive tests and negative tests, they were forcing people to wear ankle bracelets to make sure they didn't get outside their house. Just want to let you know that's how quick the slippery slope. It didn't even take a week. Didn't take a week in the land of the free. We need the Second Amendment because we're going to rise up against the government should it ever get a little bit out of control. Took 1 week. We're wearing ankle bracelets, not so much as a peep. Just wanted to say that. And this also brings me to a side point. And people will say this, and this one I can stand, I think, least of all. When you're giving these people ankle bracelets so they don't go out into the community, people will say, oh, that's so they don't affect others. And Cuomo is the king. Well, of course he's king, but he's also a very big king of saying things like this. You don't have a right to infect me. I don't have a right to infect you. Your freedoms do not hinder my freedom to be safe and secure and all this and that. You've got to be very careful. Whenever you hear something along the lines of that, but your right doesn't trump my right to this, whenever you hear a statement formed like that, your ears need to perk right up, because it is the exact same line they used to take guns away from people. And I don't mean come in and bust down the door and take guns away. I mean that you can't transfer certain guns in New York because of the SAFE Act to your kids. So when you die, the guns will get taken away. Don't worry. You have to be very careful when people say that. There's no inherent right to safety. It sounds good. It sounds like common sense, but it doesn't work out. It doesn't work out when you actually go around to think about it. Unless you're specifically going out knowing that you're infected, and with a motive to spread disease, unfortunately, your little excuse of you don't have the right to infect anybody is bupkis. That's not entirely true. It's not true at all, in fact. You do have the right to freedom of movement and freedom of association. They are the ones that are pinning on this, oh, you're out to infect people. That's a negative. And what's really interesting, and it's weird how fast people slurp this up, is because they'll just say, well, people are asymptomatic, so you'll follow along our orders whether you're actually sick or not. Do you understand that that means they can tell anybody to do anything, period? You can't say, well, I'm not sick, why can't I go out and freely associate? No, you could be asymptomatic. Do we not see the egregious problem with this? Honestly, I cannot be the only person seeing this, and I'm not, because, like I said, ever since I made the first video, slowly the curve has been going up when people have been going from you're crying wolf and saying that the sky is falling to, yikes, now people are being forced to wear ankle bracelets, and then the next little gem that we have here in New York, which is kind of the reason I made this video. People are starting to get to it. It's just, you have got to study your history, and I don't even mean, like, go back even to World War II. I'm talking about, like, last year. I'm talking about maybe 10 years in New York, things like the SAFE Act. You need to study modern history and see that you cannot forget what these governments do with this power. You can't say, well, okay, well, it's for the public safety. You know what else is for public safety? Whatever the fuck they want to be. All they gotta do is say it's for public safety, and these people fold like a fucking card table. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it's almost like I feel like I'm living in the Twilight Zone, because I've explained this to people, I think, for multiple issues, and it's like people go fucking brain dead every time somebody lets a fart. And that's all about how dangerous this fucking virus is, a fart. The reason you're hearing so much about this virus, by the way, my stance on this has not changed. I think it's a gross overreaction. And then people say, are you saying that you don't think people are getting infected? No, I think people are getting infected out there. They also get infected with a whole bunch of other stuff. And just like the school shootings, I think that what's happening is we're keeping all the attention on this one person or that and the other thing, so it looks way worse than it actually is. Whenever you have a school shooting nowadays, that's all they focus on for weeks and months on end, and then everybody thinks, oh my god, we have 100,000 school shootings a day in the United States. No, what's going on is the same media that these people claim, the Trumpeteers, they say, oh, fake news, fake news. The same people that are right, that the mainstream media kind of sucks, they're the first ones to jump on and say, oh, thank you, Lord, oh, Jesus, thank you, Lord Trump, out there for keeping us safe during all these times. Thank you, big government. Oh, I think Cuomo and Trump are doing the right thing. It's absolutely amazing. Are you fucking kidding me? It's not like all of a sudden the big mainstream media out there became righteous overnight. They are lying to you to spread fear about this nonsense. And a fine example of this is when Cuomo has, like, a press briefing. If you don't believe it, I'll take you to the dead bodies of the 600 people that died today, and you say it to their families. I gladly do that, because I can control my emotions, unlike most people that just make things based on emotions. I don't care if your mother, your brother, your sister, you died, though that'd be pretty interesting how I'd be talking to you if you were dead, but your emotional impact on this is of no concern to me. The most common tactic people will say is, well, you don't have a connection. I had somebody very close to me to die. Therefore, because you don't have an emotional connection, well, and it looks like I'm putting a whole bunch of oil on there, but it's actually, this stuff, Ballistol, makes this look wet. It leaves it kind of with a sheen on it even after it's dry. It's not that much oil at all, so don't freak out about that. But unless you have an emotional connection, you have no right to speak on the subject. How about I turn the tables on that one and say, you've clearly been traumatized and are incapable of thinking clearly, so you don't have a valid thing to say on this. In reality, that's a pretty shitty way to dismiss somebody's opinion. But so is the complete appeal to emotion of, oh my god, if you don't have anybody that's personally affected, you can't have an opinion on this. Nonsense. Nonsense. That's the same people that say, you'll understand when you're older, or you're not a cop, you can't have an opinion on that. I'm also not a child molester. I also can have an opinion on that, saying, that's probably not a good thing. So, where are we now in New York? New York specifically, I was just talking about Kentucky. Where are we now in New York? Give the mag a little spritz so it doesn't oil up. Am I worried about getting a little oil on the rounds in there so they won't fire? Nope. I do this quite often with loaded mags, and I am unconcerned about it. Where are we now in New York? So, in New York, we just passed a law, a decree. There was no law. It was a flat-out decree, these executive orders, which are as dangerous for Cuomo to pass as they are for Trump, for all these people saying, oh, well, I like that he's showing the government, or the governors, the what for, and saying, you will do this, or I like that he's not showing. We don't have a fucking king here. He doesn't just wave his hand and then this is the law. Well, I know that's actually how it happens recently, but that's not right, and that should scare you. But with a wave of his wand, Cuomo just made a decree. Everybody in New York, not just New York City, because he can't, New York City is New York to him, that's all he knows. So everybody in New York, which includes me, will wear a mask when they're in public. I want you to think about that for a second. Just with a stroke of the pen, this man is going to tell you what you're going to do in public. Now, what happened to my body, my choice, which I'm very much pro-choice on the abortion issue, by the way, but kind of makes you think, what happened to my body, my choice? By the way, this mask thing, I will not be participating in this endeavor. I do appreciate the offer, but I will not be participating. And before anybody gets on the snitch line, which they also set up so you can report your neighbors for stuff like this, for noncompliance, let's just say I'm going to skirt the law in other ways. I won't be doing anything illegal. Got it there, so nobody report that. Just with a stroke of the pen, oh yes, he's going to tell you how to dress and what you must wear on your face. Now, there are legitimate concerns. My concern is I ain't fucking playing along because this is an egregious government overreach, and alarm bells should be going off everywhere. I hate to say the one that broke the camel's back, but this should be a very fucking serious issue. This should not be tolerated for 1 second. What I was saying is there are legitimate issues as to why you might not want to wear a mask. And you see this in the scuba diving community quite often. When you have something covering your face, an orifice that you typically use to breathe, you see this with the scuba regulators too. People sometimes freak out because it's a very unnatural thing. A constriction on your face also causes anxiety. That's one thing I've been lucky with. I've never had claustrophobia, so when I'm doing one of my bondage shoots, I've been lucky that I've never had claustrophobia, so that's me. Unfortunately, that's not the same case for everybody, because some people freak out, and I don't blame them. Having something covering your face that inhibits your breathing, that's not good, but you will wear a mask in public. And then this brings up one of the things, I'm really growing high on the list of things I cannot stand anymore. But this brings up the people that are defending this crap with they're not saying, they're just saying type of people. You may recognize them because you hear them on both sides. You have they're not saying you can't have a gun. They're just saying you can't have a 30-round mag. They're not saying you can't have a gun. They're just saying you can't have an AR-15. Now it's turned to they're not saying you can't use those public transportation systems that you paid for. You'll just do it by their rules. And I've actually heard this one trying to defend this forced mask under threat of violence, which I'll talk about that in a minute. They're not saying you have to wear a mask in public, just if you can't get away and social distance. Just like defensive driving, you don't have to worry about yourself. What about somebody that comes into your space? What? You're both not social distancing now? How does that affect you? They are telling you what you must wear under threat of violence, because anything the government makes a law or decree is always with a threat of violence, because it always plays out like this. If you don't, then they can cite you a ticket or they can arrest you. And if you decide not to play along, then it escalates into violence. So anytime a government makes a decree, they are under for a threat of violence telling you what you must do. That is unacceptable. Okay, that is just impossibly unacceptable. And we have people defending this. It's absolutely, totally insane. The power grab, even beyond my wildest dreams on what he was going to do with this, he did. I saw them raiding the hoarders' houses. That happens before. I'm surprised he hasn't went after the guns yet like they did in Katrina. But saying you will wear a mask, or else, as in with a fine, with jail time, this and that, is just, I'm flabbergasted. And somebody actually joked, well, maybe the Democrats will see this and finally vote out Andrew Cuomo in in November. The Democrats love this stuff. The Republicans love this stuff. They are two sides of the same coin. They want more government intervention than you can possibly imagine. All they gotta do is say PS, public safety, and people fucking fold like you wouldn't believe. One of the best pictures that describes it I saw was the Founding Fathers drafting up the Constitution, and when they're done, it's like George Washington saying, just want to let you know, if we ever have a viral outbreak, we just throw this out the window, right? And the same thing goes for, just want to let you know, if we have a school shooting, we just throw this out the window. And people always try to justify it. Well, these are special times. You'll see this a lot with school shootings. They'll say, well, they couldn't have envisioned the kind of firepower that people would have nowadays. Yeah, if you could just pass this law, that'd be great. And they're doing it now, and I feel like saying, yeah, when the Founding Fathers were making the Constitution, they couldn't have envisioned that we were going to have, like, a sickness. So if you could just pass this egregious law, that'd be great. Are you fucking kidding me? This is fucking beyond the pale right here. Not just the act, but how my fellow fucking New Yorkers are behaving during this time. Voting for this stuff, saying, oh yeah, I'll just play along, I'll wear this mask, which, by the way, isn't to protect you, it's to prevent you from spreading the disease. There's very few times when it is to actually protect you if you're in absolute direct close contact, not like the 6 feet, but if you're like a healthcare worker or something like that, and somebody is probably going to be coughing directly in your face over and over again for hours on end, then you might have an argument. But absolutely not. It has nothing to do with if you're walking down the street, if you're in a building within 6 feet of people. Absolutely nothing to do with that. That is pure fear-mongering. This is where I kind of get into the point where, and I hate going into conspiracies like this, as I've already mentioned earlier, but this is where I could get to the point where some people would say, I don't know if this was exactly orchestrated, but they certainly are not fucking missing their opportunity just to see how far they can fucking push the populace. Just to fucking see how much they can get away with. And the scary part is, they're getting away with it. Anything you say, you just wrap it in that public safety. And this is always the part I hate about putting this fucking thing back together, getting these dual springs lined up in these channels here. If you just say the PS word, people fold like a fucking card table. And it is fucking embarrassing. People should be fucking ashamed of themselves. But, you know, I wouldn't kick some of the conspiracy theorists out of bed now for saying, I want to see if this maybe is just so they can see how far they can push people. Because I don't know if this has convinced me. Man, this is a bitch to do behind this fucking viewfinder. This has cleared up any maybe misconceptions that I have, I don't know about had, but I've never really had faith in my fellow countrymen. Not, of course, the subscribers to this channel, because they're great. But anybody that says, oh, when the government tells me to do this or that, or turn over my guns, or wear this, or you'll do that, they fold like a fucking cheap card table. And I've always kind of thought they would. I didn't really have much faith in my fellow man, but this is just in case anybody thinks that, oh, there's going to be some big uprising from either side because both sides kind of warn, I'm going to blow up the fucking White House. No, you're not. You're going to fucking get in line just like everybody else. You're not going to have a fucking armed uprising. No matter what sort of sweet Desert Eagle you have. But you're going to fucking do exactly what you're told. I fully support any sort of peaceful civil disobedience with this stuff. So anybody that doesn't fucking wear the mask, fucking more power to you. Because like I said, I'm not participating in this particular endeavor. I heard the offer on the table. I respectfully decline. It's not for me. No, thank you. And again, I don't have any problem with the mask. I scuba dive and I don't have any sort of claustrophobia. It's just an absolute, it's the principle of the thing. The principle of the thing. Somebody coming in, waving their hand saying, you will wear a mask or else. And fucking morons out there, oh, thank God. Thank you for keeping us safe, Andrew. Fucking shameful. And by the way, I do have my 50 barrel on there. I also have the 44 Magnum barrel, but I don't have it on there right now. So I can't believe I actually took that apart. I got it semi-oiled. Oiled for the most part. Like I said, this Ballistol leaves a sheen on there, even almost when it's dry. That's what I like about it, because it keeps the rust off. So it's not nearly as oily as this light makes it look in this camera. I can't believe I actually did this, though, while talking and not fucking up things too badly. Like I said, this was just an oiling. I wasn't cleaning it. I haven't shot it recently. Oh, that needs to change soon. But I already spent my stimulus check, by the way, on a really cool thing that hopefully I'll be showing to your channel when... Hopefully I'll be showing on this channel when this is all done. By the way, that's another thing this is going to be affecting me. It was a pistol that I bought with the stimulus check, and it's getting sent to my FFL, and it doesn't really matter when it gets here because the state offices are closed, and let's all say it together here, in New York, every pistol that you buy has to be added to your permit. So it can be there, and it can be in your hand, and you cannot take it home until it gets added to your permit, because everyone's got to be on the permit, so who the fuck knows when that'll actually be in my possession. But it's a nice gun. Hopefully you enjoy it. And believe it or not, it was actually more expensive than the Desert Eagle, so I should tell you something. So, all right, thanks for watching. If you're one of those people out there that sees this and just cannot believe what people are accepting, or are embarrassed at the attitudes that people are applauding, post in the comments, because it does help when you hear that you're not alone out there. Because it's almost like you're crazy. It's almost like you're crazy. No, you can't let the fucking government come in and take the hoarder's stash, because they will abuse that literally the next day they do. You can't say you will do this, that, or you'll wear this, or you won't wear that, or it's my body, it's my... Stop it. Stop it. Because once you give them an inch, they'll take 10 miles. And it's just upsetting that they've taken 10 miles to the point they'll tell you what you will wear to even leave your house. To even leave your house, you will be dressed in state-approved colors. And not a peep. People are applauding it. That's just embarrassing. I'm disappointed in people. So with that being said, I'm going to close this slide first and put the full magazine back in. Put safety on. And there we are. So thanks for watching, guys. Take it easy.